Hello, I'm Claire Jewitt, and this is The Diary of an Orange Cat, the diary series of a thoughtful, slightly neurotic ginger cat named Weasley, written from a small harbour community in New Zealand. In the last episode, Weasley discovered that his new friend Ron was not quite what he seemed. In today's diary entry, a mysterious fight breaks out in the village, and somehow Weasley finds himself at the centre of all of the rumours. And now, Weasley's diary. I should begin by correcting something from the last episode. I referred to these recordings as podcats. Mummy has since informed me that the correct term is podcast. I must have just transposed the letters. In any case, here is my latest entry. Monday, 12th November 2018. There was a huge drama in the village this morning. It happened while I was patrolling the southern boundary of the property in order to monitor the two pugs that lived next door. Now, there's a peculiar looking animal. When I saw them for the first time, I thought that they'd met with a nasty accident, or perhaps a surgical procedure had gone very badly wrong. I was bravely teasing them from my side of the fence when I heard all this tremendous howling and angry mewing coming from the neighbour's house on the other side. Naturally, I rushed over to see if I could assist, but by the time I got there, all I could hear was the rustle of bushes and the patter of paws scampering away from the fight scene. Judging by the amount of ginger fur, the action appeared to have taken place underneath the neighbour's ute. The neighbour came out to see what all the fuss was about, so I made a beeline for the man cave to find Ron. My trust in Ron has slowly been building since the incident in the man cave. However, I know that he can get a bit scrappy at times, which made me wonder if he might have been involved in whatever it was that was going down. He's also the only other ginger cat I know that lives nearby. Ron wasn't in the man cave, and I eventually found him snoozing in the nearby lavender bush. I couldn't believe he'd slept through all that commotion, but knowing his nocturnal habits, it was possible that he'd had a big night at the man cave and was now recovering. I brought him up to speed with events, and we both ventured to the scene of the crime. Taking a sample of ginger fur, we set off to conduct our own investigation. We did a house-to-house, and Ron, reeking of lavender, found out from his ex-girlfriend that it's all over the village that I was involved because I'd been spotted running away from the scene. Worse still, she told him that the neighbour had contacted Mummy. She'd be furious if she thought that I'd been fighting at the neighbour's house. Ron just scoffed. She'll know it isn't you, he said. Everyone knows what a big girl's blouse you are. I thought this was a bit rich coming from a cat who'd been luxuriating in a lavender bush for the best part of the morning, but I said nothing. It's true that my preference is to sit down and iron out any differences before resorting to violence. That doesn't make me a big girl's blouse. I'm always extremely brave when Mummy is around and needs my protection from Ron, who can give a very nasty nip. Maybe I should pretend it was me. That would shut them up. Mind you, then I'd have all the tryhards hanging around wanting to pick a fight, and I certainly wouldn't want that. This is evidently what happens to poor Marty, who spends half his life at the vet and always smells vaguely of antiseptic. Marty tried to organise a fight night charity event recently, although I suspect he was really trying to raise funds for his vet bills. I said I couldn't take part because we had a dog coming to stay. It was the only excuse I could think of at such short notice, yet, strangely enough, it turned out to be true. Mummy's daughter has got a puppy called Riley, he's a cross between a golden retriever and some sort of sheepdog. Well, I say puppy. He's huge, and what a pain in the neck he is. He's friendly enough, but he tries to present me with all of his favourite toys, which I sincerely hope he doesn't seriously expect me to play with. They're heavily laden with dog slobber, and I would sooner eat my own tail than engage in some inane doggy game with those horrific offerings. I feel bad about saying that now, but when he's around, everything becomes so chaotic that I find it difficult to keep my anxiety levels under control. To be honest, I'd almost rather have gone to the fight night, but in the end it was called off due to lack of interest. I tried to share my suspicions about Marty with Ron, but he seemed more interested in playing detective. He was throwing around terms like inconclusive fur microscopy and criminal profiling. I suppose he must watch a lot of police procedurals or courtroom dramas on television. It wasn't long before my learned friend Ron was summing up the case for the prosecution. "The evidence all points to you, Weasley," he said confidently. "You were witness leaving the scene and the fur is an exact match to yours. If it wasn't you, it would have to be your brother or something." That gave me a thrill of excitement. Perhaps my big brother Winston had come over to visit me. I know he lives in a house on the outskirts of the village. I've got a picture of him somewhere and he does look remarkably like me. We're from different litters, but I must add that I have it on good authority that Mother was in a stable relationship for years with the father of Winston and me. Rumour has it that the relationship ended when Mother moved house, which is rather sad. She passed away recently. After it happened, I brought it up at one of our mindfulness meetings, but the group all agreed that I still need to do a bit more work on the grief process before I'm ready to talk openly about it. So I'll say no more about that for the time being. Ron, meanwhile, had another suggestion. Apparently, he'd heard that my old friend Ginger had been having dreadful problems with his knots. So, perhaps all the fur belonged to Ginger and there wasn't another cat involved at all. Doesn't explain the howling, though, he added thoughtfully. As though this were the only flaw in this brilliant deduction. Ron really needs to think these things through before he opens his mouth. Why on earth would Ginger walk to the other side of town and aggressively sort out his knots under the neighbour's ute? Then Ron hopefully suggested that it might have been Squeak. How could it be? Squeak is black and white, and this cat was clearly ginger. Ron is always trying to pin something on Squeak, though, and I know why. It's because of the choir. Squeak is extremely musical. It's just something he said is in his blood. A few months ago, he suggested we get a group together and form a choir. We're still quite a small group, but we're steadily improving under Squeak's expert tuition, particularly now the weather is warming up and we can have regular practices. Squeak didn't want Ron in the choir, partly because Ron continually makes rude remarks about Squeak's weight, and partly because, well, there's no other way to put this. Ron's singing is appalling. What an absolute din. Squeak isn't always that patient with, and I can see his ears twitch and flatten whenever Ron attempts to hit the high notes. Mine do too, although I'm trying hard to control it. Ron told me the other day that Squeak channels his musical ability by whacking the sound speakers in his home with his paws. Surely not. Where does Ron get on all this gossip from? And he says I overthink things. By the end of the day, we were no closer to discovering what had happened with the ginger cat under the ute, but everyone in the village seems to be having great fun making up rumours that it was me. I'm hoping that the whole thing will just die down soon and that everyone will just stop pointing and whispering. That was another entry from The Diary of an Orange Cat. If you'd like to read more of Weasley's diary, the book The Woes of Weasley by Claire Jewitt is available on Amazon. Next time, Weasley discovers something rather more intoxicating. Cats and catnip.